Hey everyone, today I'm just doing a little video discussing the PANDAS and PANS censorship in the Tourette syndrome community. I feel that this is important for me to discuss as I think it is quite a big issue and it does have a huge effect on people. Now, thankfully, the Tourette's groups that I attend in person are really accepting of PANDAS PANS. They know about it. However, I've noticed that a select few online groups, of course I'm not naming names, they don't seem as accepting or open-minded towards discussing it, and this makes me very sad. An old group that I used to be in, again I'm not saying which one, but they basically, if you mention pandas or pans or try to discuss it, they would just say it wasn't real. And also with histamine as well, if someone posted about histamine, they would censor that as well, which was baffling to me as my condition is associated with histamine. But anyway, I feel that this is really harmful because a lot of people with PANDAS PANS can develop tics. Therefore, people are often given the diagnosis of Tourette syndrome, sometimes often before they receive the correct PANDAS PANS diagnosis. Therefore, there's probably a lot of people in those groups who have PANDAS PANS and don't know it. Like myself, when I was younger, I didn't know I had PANDAS PANS. So I feel that people have the right to access the information that may help them get the correct diagnosis and may help them make more sense of their experiences and their case, and most importantly allow people to access the most effective treatments, because when people hear about PANDAS PANS, they could then get diagnosed with it, which means a lifetime of suffering could be prevented by getting the correct treatment, as Tourette syndrome and PANDAS PANS are treated and managed differently. And this is something that breaks my heart when I see all this censorship going on, and I really wish that it stops, and I wish that people can stick up with the PANDAS PANS community and stand up to censorship and say, no, we're allowed to discuss things openly because people have a right to know this information. I just really hope that people can be more open to discussing PANDAS PANS on these groups, because if there was a kid who suddenly developed tics and debilitating OCD, then diagnosed as having Tourette's, and they saw this stuff about PANDAS PANS not being real, they may never get the correct diagnosis. This is upsetting, as they may live their entire life in this state of debilitating OCD and tics, when something as simple as antibiotics in the beginning could have made it a lot easier for them and could have prevented a lifetime of suffering, and in some cases can even save a life, as there are complications from PANDAS PANS, the horrific symptoms that can arise. But yeah, it does just break my heart to see this censorship, and I really hope that it stops and that people can speak freely about stuff. I do forgive the people who are like admins of the group who may censor stuff, as they may not know the information about PANDAS PANS being treated by Stanford's Immune Behavioural Health Clinic. They may not be aware that the International OCD Foundation did a public service announcement about pandas. They may not know all this information about it, so they may not know how important it is to get the word out there and to allow people to access the information and know about it and discuss it openly. They may think that PANDAS PANS and Tourette's is the same thing, which is what I used to think, so it's understandable that they would think that, but thinking that PANDAS PANS isn't real just doesn't make any sense anymore, because research is showing that it is real and it's serious. It needs a diagnosis. If you are one of the people in the Tourette's groups who does censor PANDAS PANS information or feels that it isn't relevant to talk about, then please, 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 please do your research and think about the impact it has on others, as I'm one of the people who's diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, but I have PANDAS/PANS, and knowing that earlier could have made a huge difference. And unfortunately, a lot of people may take to heart what is being said on these groups about PANDAS PANS not being real. They may believe that there's no point looking into it then, therefore may go their whole life then dealing with horrific symptoms that maybe change over time. If people don't get the correct diagnosis, one day they could potentially go into a flare and suddenly develop debilitating symptoms that they haven't had before, that do not relate to their original diagnosis. Like when I was 17, that happened, and people have the right to know what could be going on. Otherwise, people can feel lost, and it does just break my heart that there's censorship in this sort of thing. It shouldn't happen. If you are one of the people, please do your research and allow people to talk about this stuff openly. Another thing I really wanted to mention is some people may be upset or offended if PANDAS PANS is mentioned to them or suggested, which is understandable because maybe they've just had it so many times, so many people saying PANDAS, PANDAS, PANS, that stuff. I understand it can get very frustrating. Yet at the same time, I mean, I used to be the same. I remember people suggesting PANDAS PANS or something, or asking if I had it, but yeah, people used to ask if I had it, but I said that I didn't because I have food sensitivities triggering my symptoms, and I thought that people with PANDAS PANS didn't have that. But there are people in the PANDAS PANS community who have food sensitivities triggering some of their symptoms as well as the infections. So yeah, I feel that it's just important as well to allow it to be discussed. I know people do know themselves best, of course, and some people may not want to talk about PANDAS PANS, and that's completely valid, but for those who do, it should be allowed to be discussed on the groups without the censorship. People should be allowed to share the information that could potentially help people get the correct diagnosis and completely change their life for the better.